Hi, Mr. Sinn. So we're going to start off with just some establishing questions. So like your full name, age, where you teach, what you teach, how long you've been teaching, where you grew up, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. So my full name, I guess, would be Riley Sinn. On YouTube, yeah, or with my students, it's just Mr. Sinn. But I've been teaching. I think this is gonna be my ninth year of teaching. So, been teaching for a while now. Do you want like all the classes I've taught?
Sure.
I think I've taught world history, sociology, introduction to philosophical thought, economics, which had also a personal finance component to it, psychology, AP psychology, AP human geography, civics. I'm trying to think. World history A and B. I think that might be all of it. I don't know. Yeah, I've taught a bunch of different like classes. And then I've helped create some classes too, like some criminal justice classes and things of that nature, developing like curriculum and stuff, which is always fun to do. I think was those the main ones that you were looking for? Oh, I'm from Minnesota as well. So yeah, I think I hit all the questions there.
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
So you said that you've been teaching for 9 years. So what made you want to go into teaching?
I always thought teaching sounded cool because you can go into a profession where you always get to learn and you get to do different things. I also never liked the idea of just like sitting behind a desk and just always doing kind of the same thing every single day. Now, teaching, if you're teaching the same class multiple times a day, yeah, you're doing the same thing, but you always get to like change things up. Plus, it's awesome interacting with students and talking with different people and always getting like new points of view. So that always sounded really appealing to me. And I've liked it ever since. It's always been fun because I get to learn more things every day.
That's great. So you started out as a teacher. What, I guess, prompted you to like start producing YouTube videos on your YouTube channel?
The YouTube videos came from just, I like video games and I'm a big consumer of YouTube, movies, all of that stuff. And I always learn from like, oh, if I have to work on a house project, I'll go to YouTube and look it up. And for my students, when we are trying to do different activities or concepts, I started off like, oh, I'll film just lessons. The original ones were quite bad. It was just me narrating essentially over a PowerPoint, and they kind of evolved as my students' needs evolved. But it just came from a spot of, hey, this would help my students out. Now they have an option to study at home. Instead of it being where you go home and you forget the stuff in class, you can't remember it. Now you have something that you can actually look at and you'll know all the main things from class. So trying to kind of reduce the barrier to learning for students was kind of the original goal. And ever since then, the goal has just continued to evolve. But that's always been kind of my core principle of why I do any of the YouTube videos, is just to try and help my students. And obviously over time, more and more people, such as yourselves, apparently have been watching the videos and been benefited from it. So that's just kind of an added bonus there.
Yeah, so to kind of follow up on that, once your channel started gaining traction and getting to students like us in New York, what was your initial reaction to seeing your impact on students everywhere?
That was really weird. I mean, I think the first time I really realized it was some of my sociology videos, and I don't even know if they're public anymore, but I got an email from someone in India that was thanking for the videos because they couldn't afford textbooks, but my like summary of the different notes and chapters of stuff helped them out and they were using them. And that was kind of like a surreal moment. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like more people are benefiting from this than I originally planned on, which is great because I think that's the best part of doing the YouTube videos is it can help reduce barriers for people literally all over the world. So it's kind of been a surreal experience. It still doesn't necessarily feel like this big following. You know, sometimes my students will look at my subscribers or stuff and they're always like, oh, you have so many people, but it doesn't really feel like that, I guess. My goal has always just been to make the best videos and help as many students as I can.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I know from like experience how how much work can go into making a YouTube video. So like, can you talk a bit more about the process that goes into making one and like the whole process from beginning to end?
From beginning to end. Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into than I think most people realize. So, I mean, it depends too, like if you're ever interested in doing YouTube, it is going to depend on what type of content you want to make. So like each type of content or niche has different kind of processes. For me, though, it's looking at, okay, the CED of whatever class it is, or if I'm going to do, which eventually I'll probably end up doing, create some stuff that's not necessarily just AP, then it's getting that idea, processing that, fleshing it out, writing a script, Then after you write the script, you kind of let it sit for a little bit. Then I go back and kind of reread it. I'm like, what was I writing? Kind of fix some of that stuff, make sure it flows well. Then it's filming, which if it's a good day, it can go really quick. If you're making a lot of mistakes, it can take a little bit longer. I know, for example, I'm not the best with pronunciating everything. One of the things with like AP psychology, for example, there's a lot of like technical terms, and my wife would always come down and laugh at me as I mispronounced half the stuff. So then I did a lot of retakes and have to do that process. Then it goes into editing where you cut it down, you get the flow right. And then it's also going into B-roll and trying to see, okay, how can I add more images to make this more dynamic? And then that again goes, if you watch it, change a bunch of stuff then again after you see, oh, okay, this was off, or I didn't like how this ended up. Then you go into YouTube metadata where I'm trying to figure out thumbnails and tags and all of that fun stuff. And then we're getting close to where you posted, which still has other variables such as like time of day and things of that nature. It's like a really quick rundown. But something as simple as like a 5-minute video is probably a couple hours of work. I know for like the AP psychology ultimate review packet that I launched last year, just editing those videos alone was over 120 hours of editing. And that was just for like the editing process. And that didn't include finding all the B-roll and getting all the scripts and things of that nature.
So obviously throughout your time doing this, I'm sure you've learned a lot, like how you just mentioned with the process. So how has your process kind of changed over time as you've learned more about producing these videos?
I've become more conscious of time on different things. So like originally when I was filming it, it would be me just talking over screen recording a PowerPoint. Then eventually my students wanted like guided notes that I used to do. So I made notes for all the videos. Then all of a sudden, eventually I was in the videos, and those early ones are terrible. The lighting was overexposed. They were really bad. But those I would be filming without like a teleprompter, without a script. I would just kind of look at my notes and do it all from memory, which worked. But then I also had a lot of like kind of fluff in there, or I was trying to like figure things out, and it ended up just taking longer. So now it's a lot more deliberate where I'll actually have a script and I have everything set out. So that way I can make sure that I'm able to just say exactly what needs to be said and try and limit some of the different kind of things in the video that might just extend the length, but don't add as much value. So now too, I have like kind of the set and things are like set. So when I'm ready to film, all I have to do is turn on the lights, the camera, and then it's good to go. Instead of before where I'd like set it up each time and things of that nature. But I've also probably become a lot more conscious as well of even just like YouTube in general. It gives you a lot of information and data, which is great, but it also makes you aware of, oh, this video is not doing well. How can you make it better? At the end of the day, though, I always am making videos, though, for trying to make sure that the students can learn the most. So how can I make sure that it's engaging, that they'll actually watch it, and that it'll benefit them too? So all those kind of things go through my mind, I guess, every time I make it. There's a lot, I guess, I could go into. I love talking about YouTube, especially all like the behind the scenes stuff.
I mean, I guess like it definitely sounds like it's a very long, lengthy process, even for just the small videos like you were talking about. So I guess especially during the school year when you're both a teacher and sort of a content creator or YouTuber, I guess how do you balance those duties?
I don't have the best work-life balance, probably. I'll get up before I go to school and I will work on YouTube videos and then also lesson prep. So like during the school year last year, I think I was getting up at like 4:30 sometimes. Most of the time it'd be 4:30, 5 at the latest. And then I would work, then I'd go to school. I'd make sure all my lesson stuff was prepped for the day and get that stuff set. I'd do all my school stuff, get home. I'd take about a 15-minute nap, and then I would go and film and edit a video. Then I'd work on lessons for the next day. And then I'd try to relax a little bit there. So my work-life balance probably is definitely too much on the work side, but it's also something that I enjoy. So right now that's okay. But yeah, that's always a challenge doing both, because technically it's like two full-time jobs. Then there's like emails or Instagram messages, which I need to get better at responding quickly to, but it gets hard when you have so many different things. So yeah.
So along the same lines of that kind of balance between your students and also your YouTube, how do your students or fellow teachers react to your fame with your YouTube, and are you treated any differently?
I hope I'm not treated differently, but most of my students, I'd say, don't really care, or they're like, it's really cool at first. And then when we hit certain milestones, they get excited, but otherwise I'm just their teacher. So for them, I'm not that big of a deal because I'm the one that's giving them the homework and the tests. And I'm the one who's making them talk in class and do all of that. So I don't know how many of them, I guess, see me as anything like different per se. A lot of people have questions about like YouTube in general. So I have a lot of that of like, oh, how do you do this? Or like, how does like the analytics work? Or how many people are watching? So I get questions like that. But for the most part, I feel like everyone treats me the same. I wouldn't by any means consider myself a superstar or anything. So, and I don't think my students do either. Most of them probably could care less, I guess.
You mentioned test earlier, and in doing like a bit of research on you, we know that you like to incorporate these types of, forward thinking, interactive methods of learning, like obviously with like making YouTube videos, but also with like escape rooms in your lessons and quizzes. So I guess could you talk a little bit more about, I know this is a loaded question, but could you talk a little bit more about like your philosophy towards education and how you seek to engage your students?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, have you guys done an escape room?
Yeah.
Not for school, but yeah.
Okay, not for school, but we both have. Okay, escape rooms are fun. Did you guys like them?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm bad at them.
The escape room thing, I can give a quick thing. I'll talk about the philosophy too. That, because I did some escape rooms and I thought they were a blast, because the whole thing was like you're just trying to figure out how to get out of this room and there's different puzzles and all this stuff. So what I did for there is made lessons, and they always were kind of like unit reviews where class would be broken up into different teams. I have QR codes. I bought lock boxes. I have black lights. So there's like hidden messages and things. And then every like challenge is based around different like concepts. So for like my econ class, or my AP microeconomics class, that one, what they do is they're actually like using charts. They have to do the math that gets them a code to a padlock. Once they get in there, all of a sudden now there is a word scramble, which is vocab. And this one has a quiz. And then the quiz, you have to have certain right answers in a certain order. So that I kind of was my idea after going to an escape room, was like, this would be really cool to bring into the classroom. And there's a bunch of actually other teachers, I think, that do escape rooms and stuff that you can find online. But I always like making my own. I think they're kind of fun. And that kind of connects into my philosophy is I want students to be part of the conversation and actually engage in the stuff. I love doing like discussions, debates, or let's talk about a particular topic and then let's just like break it down. And the more questions we ask, great, let's start looking into it. Other things too, anything I can get hands on, I'm always for that. Especially like gamifying, like with escape rooms, or for AP Human Geography, I had a whole unit where we played Sim City, and then you'd try to actually go and see all these urban concepts actually in Sim City as you're playing it. I think those are a lot more impactful. So I guess that would be kind of my philosophy, very like student focus, and how can we create real experiences and connect into the real world today.
Awesome. So do you have any future goals for your YouTube or your internet career?
For YouTube, this year I'm actually going to redo all of my AP Human Geography videos, and I've already been filming and redoing those. So I always want to try and like continue to improve. And that's one of the things I've liked about YouTube is I can always look back and I'll be like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Let's make this better. And I get to keep learning and improving. So this year, the big focus will be AP Human Geography, kind of redoing all the unit review videos, all the topic videos. I want to, and I'm hoping to be able to do it by the end of the year, probably before the AP test, come out for either AP Psych or AP Human Geography, an online escape room that would go through YouTube that like anyone in the world would be able to play. I think that would be really cool, where we'd have different challenges each kind of week. And then there would be videos that would unlock. So I've been working on that project. Eventually too, I'd like to do a personal finance class that's specific for like high school students. And then also that senior kind of high school into like college. That would talk about like credit cards, loans, real estate, stock market, and like really kind of help bridge that gap that I feel like a lot of people have when it comes to different personal finance skills. So those would be some things that I would like to do. I have a lot of other stuff as well of trying to actually get more like just kind of fun topic videos that are looking at real world events, but I got to do one thing at a time, as my wife always tells me.
Now I guess we have some more laid back kind of fun questions.
Yeah. So what's your favorite lesson or YouTube video that you've done?
Favorite lesson would probably be the Sim City or the escape rooms. Those are really fun to do. My favorite YouTube video, I used to do it. I should make them again. I liked doing the Minecraft videos, Mario Kart or Fortnite. Those are kind of fun just because they're so different. Otherwise, I really like doing the topic review videos and kind of the unit summary videos, because it's always a challenge of how do you get all this content in an engaging way that's fast paced, where you're not going to bore students. And so that's always kind of like a puzzle to try and figure out. So those are fun as well. But I think my highlights would probably be some of those fun ones, some of the video game ones, or even a Thanos one that I did. Those would probably be, I think, the top YouTube videos.
I believe you talked a little bit about how you like TV shows and movies and media, and how that was sort of like the inspiration behind the fun videos on your YouTube channel. But can you think of any movies or TV shows that you've seen that like accurately portray your subject matter, whether it's whatever, sociology, AP Human Geo, AP Psych, or whatever?
Yeah, there's a lot of movies. That's one thing that, like, if I watch a movie, it's kind of fun to try and like look for different connections. I had one YouTube plan that was actually going to be based around like Wreck-It Ralph, and it was going to be for AP Human Geography, where I was going to look at diffusion, modern culture, the internet, and it was going to connect, and I was going to have the whole video like clips of the movie, but showing all the concepts. And I just ran out of time, so I never was able to do it. The most recent movie I watched that probably connects really well into some of my core stuff would be, I think, The Big Short, which that would be for economics. It just did a really good job at looking at the financial crisis and like explaining things in depth, but also like making sure that the average viewer could understand what was going on in that. I'm trying to think now.
You can also answer in like the shows that get it really wrong, if that's more fun.
I like movies and shows. Star Wars is my favorite and stuff like that, which you could find a bunch of things, but they're not trying to necessarily hit to all of like the political, economic, or sociological concepts. I don't know on the ones that like get really wrong. Normally if it gets it like really wrong, then I don't end up watching it because I don't have time. I'll probably be more likely to play like a video game with some friends or something for a little bit than like watch an entire show, just because shows take a lot of time. However, normally what happens is my wife starts watching a show, and then I hear it in the background, and eventually then I start watching it. But recently I've been watching some like The Office and things of that nature. Otherwise, shows I think get really well politically and economically would be like West Wing, Newsroom. Those are on HBO, but I've really enjoyed those. And those are shows too that kind of like make you think. Madam Secretary on Netflix, I thought, did a pretty good job too, for getting some of like the geopolitical concepts right, and also making kind of the viewer think along there.
Great. So to kind of end it off, what's overall your favorite part about what you do as an educator on YouTube? And what do you hope your students or viewers will take away?
My favorite part for me is getting to interact with people from all over kind of the country, the world, but also too just like getting to always learn. Like every time I post a new video, I'll look back on it and be like, oh, this was really good, or oh, that could have been better. And then I go and I will watch someone else's videos like, oh, what a great idea. Let me see how I could try to improve that. So I like that because there's always something new. So I always get to improve myself. I'm trying to think now. What was the second part of your question?
What do you hope your students or viewers take away from watching your videos?
The big thing, I hope, one, that it helps them with their AP classes, or it helps them with their studies so that they can do well, but also two, that they realize that you're kind of like part of this community. That's been the cool thing of doing the YouTube channel, and especially actually the Discord server that I set up. That's kind of just organically grown. It's been really cool interacting with students and seeing people help each other. That always blows me away. Right before the AP tests last year, we had thousands of people on the Discord server, and they're just answering each other's questions. And these are students that have no connection to each other, minus like this one community that's kind of formed. And so that's been really cool, seeing that and having a place for people that can kind of come together and to be able to work together to try and accomplish a goal, but also like feel like they're not necessarily alone. So that's been just really cool, the human aspect of it. And especially since it's all through a computer and it's digital.
Great. I think that ends it off. Thank you so much for speaking with us.